Okay guys, this one is for you. Do you want to know my tips for how to keep your wife or girlfriend happy? Stick around, I am going to share them with you today. Hello everyone and welcome to Amber's Confessions. If you are new here, please make sure to hit that red button and subscribe. I am also on Instagram and Patreon, so if you want to connect with me a little bit more, you can check those out. Those links are down below. This week we are going to be talking about my top 5 tips for the gentlemen out there as to how to keep your wife or girlfriend happy. Obviously, I don't speak for everyone in the world, so these are my tips, and maybe they don't make everyone happy. So I don't claim to be any kind of a relationship expert, but I have been married before, and I'm married now, and we have been to couples counseling, not because there was anything particularly wrong, but because sometimes it's important to remember to talk to each other. And so while I may not be an expert, I am in the middle of it, and it is hard sometimes prioritizing your relationship, especially when you're both busy with work or school or raising a family or all of the above. So here are some of my tips about how you can make sure to take care of your relationship. Alright, men, one of the really important things that you can do for your wife or for your girlfriend is please tell her she's pretty. As women, when we get into a relationship, sometimes we don't feel like we need to put as much effort into doing our hair or our makeup every day because we're really not out there to impress anyone anymore. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to still feel like we're wanted and we're pretty and we're desirable. And I think a lot of relationships, we kind of fall into a rut where we take advantage of the fact that the other person is just always there. So make sure that you don't do that. Make sure that every now and then you kind of take a second, center yourself, close your eyes, and then look at your wife or at your girlfriend and see her as if you were seeing her for the first time. And remember all the great things about her and tell her about them. Tell her she is beautiful and smart and funny and clever and all of the things that make her wonderful. Tell them to her. Alright, tip number 2 is make sure that you take the time to prioritize your relationship. In this day and age, we are all so busy, especially when it comes to raising a family and chasing down a career and having hobbies, volunteering, whatever your thing is, we are all super busy, and a lot of times our relationship ends up taking a back seat. We take for granted that that person is there and that we've made a commitment to them, but we no longer prioritize the relationship. So make sure that you're taking time for each other. Take a time out every now and then. Prioritize date night or a hobby together or whatever it is that makes you two feel connected. Make sure that that is in the forefront of your mind, and while it's still okay to be busy and to keep up with all of the other things, make sure that you're not losing your relationship in the process. Alright, number 3. Now this one I know is going to be hard for some of you, but hear me out. So in your relationship, keeping your wife happy, you need to listen to her. And I don't mean listen to her and try and solve all of her problems. I mean just listen. So as women, a lot of times we are a lot more emotional based. We tend to focus more on how we feel about things or how things seem to us rather than the black and white that men see a lot more. So a lot of times when a woman is having a problem or facing a dilemma, we need to talk about how it feels and what feels right and what feels wrong. And it's not about just fixing it. It's not about a yes or a no or a right or a wrong. And a lot of times men see it that way. And so when a woman is having a problem and she tries to talk about that, a lot of times the men will try and jump in and just solve her problem for her. There was a video that went around for a while about that, the person with the nail in their head, and I can't really remember how the video went, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I'll try and dig it up and put a link down below for you guys. But basically, don't try and solve everything for us. If we want you to solve it, we will generally ask, but sometimes we really just need to talk it out and have someone hear us out and let us unload and unpackage some of those feelings that we're having so that we can sort through them on our own. Alright, tip number 4, and I know that this is probably one that you have heard before in your lifetime, but don't stop dating. So When we get married, or you're in a long-term relationship and you've been with that person for a while, a lot of other things tend to come first. I know for us, our kids come first in our family life. So you'll usually find us out on a weekend doing something together as a family, or we're spending money on the kids and something that they need, and we feel like we can't justify taking the time and money to have a date night. All too often, relationships fall apart not because there's a huge breakdown between the two people, but because they forgot about each other and they stopped spending time together and they stopped dating and appreciating each other. So whether it's whatever works for you, if it's taking turns on who plans what, if it's scheduling a regular date night every 2 weeks or every once a month, or whatever works for your schedule, just make sure that you actually do it and follow through. It's really important to not forget about each other and to be able to step outside of yourself and see each other in a new light, where we don't have all of the distractions of life and family and work and everything around us that really just takes our focus away from our relationship. All right, last tip for you guys, number 5, men, this one's for you again. So this one, help your wife. Be your wife's partner. So in a lot of relationships, I know it's easy to say that your partner is your best friend and they're your partner for life and they support you in everything that they do that you do, and that's great. But make sure that it's actually true. So your wife or your girlfriend, she has a lot on her mind. She's probably working or going to school, or she's staying home raising the family, taking care of the home, raising the kids and dealing with doctors and dentists and school and forms, and there's a lot of stuff going on in her mind. And while she might not ask for your help or tell you that she's overwhelmed with it, a lot of us women take all of that duty on ourselves and we get emotionally burned out, but we don't really know how to ask for help. So make sure that you are your wife's partner. Make sure that you know who your kid's doctor is and when are they due for another appointment, and take them to the dentist and be involved in their extracurriculars. Make sure that you know what's going on just as much as your wife does, because while she might shoulder a lot of that and handle it on her own without problem and no complaints, it's nice to know that we're not in it alone and that somebody else is shouldering that weight as well, and that person has our back. And lastly, one bonus tip for you, and this one is going to be really obvious, but guys, have a lot of sex. Just do it. I think it's so important to be connected in a relationship, and I think a lot of times it just falls by the wayside. You're busy and you're exhausted and you're burnt out, and this one probably more so for women than for men, but we're not always in the mood. But it is so important to make sure that you're connecting with your partner and that you don't lose that intimate connection, because if you do, then you're really nothing more than just roommates sharing a house together. So keep the spark alive, guys.